The new Land Rover Defender has arrived to critical acclaim, and though the 110 might be the choice for those who want more on the side of practicality, the 90 has always been the choice of those who want a slightly more off-road focused vehicle. And that's what we're going to look at today. It's shorter, it's slightly angrier, and it really looks very cool indeed. So let's hop in and find out what it's like. It's hard not to be charmed by the way that the Defender looks. It's big, it's blocky, and it's quite in your face really, isn't it? This 90 in its chromed bronze colour looks particularly appealing, while the contrast black rims really do help to make it stand out from the crowd. This Defender also rides on Goodyear Wrangler tyres, which really do help to give it that serious off-road appeal. The interior of the 90 is pretty much identical to the one that you'll get from the 110, which means we've got a really nice combination of rugged yet high quality feeling materials. There's this stitched effect up here and everything feels rubberized and built to last. But there has been some thought put into the practicality of the car too. So you've got some really nice rubber lined mats down there for storing loose items, and you've got deep door bins too. In the 90 you've got 3 abreast seating, so you can have 3 people sat up front, but if you don't want that, you can just fold the chair and you've got some cup holders. So it really is quite useful indeed. And then ahead of you, you've got Land Rover's latest PIV system, which is clear and easy to use. It's just an all-around, well-made and well-thought-out cabin. Of course, the original Land Rover Defender was well known for its utilitarian approach to cabin layout, but this new version is far more comfortable than that car that it replaces. For instance, you've now got room for your arm, which is a big difference because in the old Defender, you just didn't really at all. And the seats are comfortable. Everywhere has been trimmed in really nice materials, so it does feel like a step above. It's far closer to the Discovery in terms of feel, actually, instead of a harsh, rugged, utilitarian-focused off-roader. As you can see, things are a little bit cosy in the back of the 90. We've got 3 abreast seating, and fortunately for the person sat in the middle, there isn't too much of a transmission hump, so there's actually quite a good amount of legroom there. Now that seat isn't in my position, but I'd imagine, just bringing it back a little bit, your legroom is going to be decent enough, and because of the Defender's high height, you've got plenty of space for your head, though, well, taller passengers might find it a little bit more restrictive. You've also got these really cool safari windows which help to let light into the back of the cabin. You've also got 2 USB-C charging points and 2 12-volt charging points for your devices. It really feels like quite a pleasant place to be, if a slightly more compact one. Now, as you'd expect, you don't get the same level of practicality in the back from the 90 as you do from the 110. So access the side hinge door and you've got a decent amount of space, enough for some smaller bags, and it is finished with this hard plastic floor, which means you aren't going to damage it should you put some larger, heavier items in. You can of course extend the boot by lowering those back seats, but there's still this metal strut in the middle which stops it from being fully flat and means that you can't lay anything fully horizontal. Another thing to bear in mind, of course, is this side hinge door, which is going to prove a problem if you need to park the car tight against something. It's another aspect to remember. But if you do want the best possible practicality, we'd still recommend going up for the 110 because this 90 is considerably smaller. The previous generation Land Rover Defender, well, it wasn't well known for its refinement or on-road mannerisms, but this new version is totally different. This is a far more comfortable affair when you're on the road without being any less capable off the road. Do you notice a difference in the switch between 110 and 90? Well, you do slightly. This shorter wheelbase means you get a certain amount of jostle over firmer and rougher conditions, and that means that on lumpy roads, a bit like the ones we're on now, you do get quite a lot of head toss around. It's not over the top, and it certainly doesn't stop you from making good forward progress, but it's slightly less refined than you find in the 110. This car is riding on optional air suspension, so you do have the option to crank the ride height up should you want to, and should you be taking it off-road or taking it over difficult terrains. But even in its standard setting, it provides more than enough support, even though there is a small amount of roll through the bends. But realistically, this is a combination of softness that manages to dial out enough of the bumps and a firmness that stops the car from wallowing all over the place. It's a pretty decent trade-off, in truth. The only real change in this car that you can notice is the addition of those off-road focused tyres, and that means you get a fair amount more roar, and you do get quite a bit of vibration too. Of course, you could fit a slightly more road focused tyre if you are planning on using your Defender more on the road, but I think that the added capability that they give for going off-road, which at the end of the day is what you're going to want to do in a Defender, is a good trade-off between that on-road refinement. Now this car in particular is a D250, which means it gets a 3-litre turbocharged diesel engine under the bonnet with mild hybrid assistance. Now in total you get 248 brake horsepower and 570 Nm of torque, and that's more than enough to get the car up to speed and in a quick enough time. And in fact, Land Rover claims that it'll do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 7.6 seconds, which is pretty respectable for something as large and as heavy and as brick-shaped as the Defender is. In terms of fuel economy, we're talking around 30 mpg. Land Rover claims around 32, but realistically during daily driving you're going to be seeing 30, probably lower if you're using it around town a bit more frequently. And like I mentioned, this car does have mild hybrid assistance, and that helps to fill in some of the gaps in torque and bring down the emissions. And in fact they can go as low as 226 grams per kilometre, which again isn't too bad. And when it comes to the rear view mirror, you've got the option of either a traditional mirror, or you've got Land Rover's Live View, which is essentially a camera mounted to the boot which relays an image projected into a screen in the rear view mirror. Now that's going to come in really useful if you're using your car for towing, because you'll give it a clearer view behind you, or if in this car you've got 3 people sat behind you and you're struggling to see out the back. It can take a little bit of adjustment, and it can make you feel a little bit queasy if you're not used to it, but it's certainly an extra addition to the Defender's already pretty well stocked arsenal of attributes. And of course, when it comes to off-roading, the Defender remains, well, it's pretty unrivaled. You've got a full suite of assistance systems to help you get just about anywhere you want to. The air suspension fitting to this car is an optional extra, but it's probably one that most people will go for because it just gives you some added versatility to change the car's ride height when and as you need to. Since we've already driven the standard 110 Defender, we know how good it is both on-road and off-road, so this 90 version only works to extend the appeal even further. Certainly if you're after a car that is slightly more focused about going here, there and everywhere and doesn't have quite so much focus on practicality, then the 90 will certainly fit the bill. However, if you're a family or if you do need space, then we would recommend sticking with the 110, as it really does beat the 90 in terms of outright practicality. Thank you for watching this Motors.co.uk new car review. If you'd like to see some other similar reviews on some of the Defender's key rivals, then follow the links coming up next. And if you'd like to stay up to date with what we're producing, then please subscribe to the Motors.co.uk channel, hitting that bell icon so you're notified each and every time we upload a new video.